Welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode number 79. This will be my final thoughts on Liveman. Well, the full name, I have not said this is the first episode of this one. It is Choujuu Sentai Liveman. Choujuu Sentai translates to Great Beast Liveman. Yes. Now, I mainly checked this out because there was a lot of curiosity. This one, for one, this particular Super Sentai aired when I was born. Well, the very year I was born. And episode 8 is noteworthy for me because I was born the day before that episode aired. Another reason, the villains look quite interesting. I love the villain. I love the whole thing, reading about their little stuff. Like, they sound so interesting. Let's see, what else? Like, the way these Rangers looked. Like, that piqued my interest. Plus, I've seen Ray Thought before. Yes, the first time I ever saw him was actually in Gao Ranger versus Super Sentai. That crossover movie, which does not have a Power Ranger equivalent because that one it was substituted with Reinforcements for the Future. That one was supposed to be celebrating the 25th anniversary of Super Sentai. Now here's a little fun fact for you about this particular Super Sentai for this one, where at the time it aired, it was considered to be the 10th ever Super Sentai. Well, prior to O-Ranger retconning where it's actually the 12th Super Sentai. So that's why I got the whole thing of this being the 12th Super Sentai. Yep. Now I gotta admit, like, after watching this, all the actors who worked the show did an excellent job. And out of the 49 episodes, there were only 2 bad episodes. And you're thinking, really? Only 2 bad ones? Yes. Only 31 and 33. And that was it. 31, in my opinion, is the worst one of this whole batch. And 33 is terrible. Like, it's bad, but not as bad as 31. Like, aside from the finale, I would probably say one of the best episodes is the pilot. Like, the pilot had such good... I basically was kind of hyped reading about this thing. Like, the premise was so interesting. And this also is the first Super Sentai I've watched where no mentor. Because the mentor got killed off in episode 2. Which, that is kind of bizarre. The fact that he got killed off in episode 2 of all things. Though, there was some things I didn't like the show aside from the stuff I mentioned in the finale. Like, for example, Dr. Dorothy, for example. Interesting character. Like, I think the actress herself did an absolutely fantastic job with her. Despite the fact she's French. Like, I didn't think they would keep her on a permanent basis per se, but it had pop up as a recurring character. Nope. Excuse me. One-shot character, and she's only there to swim to base, drop off a core, look at a screen, and that's it. To me, in my opinion, that is a bit of a waste of an actress's time. Yes, I think she should pop up as a recurring character, but no. It's like, we don't really go into like who else was on that team that supported Black Bison and Green Rhino. Yeah, for those two, aside from Dr. D, Dr. Dorothy, who actually was in charge of that particular group, who else was part of that group? Aside from those 3, don't know. We never got a chance to explore that. Maybe it was planned to have her as a regular character, but maybe, I think, it's just my theory, I think because the ratings were slipping at this point. Now, I do love the final episode's title, The Fall of Great Professor Bias, which is a bit of a spoiler. Though I think that's the reason why this thing ended at 40 episodes. I think that the ratings were slipping. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at episode 32, a really good episode. I like 32. And yeah, it's one of the lowest ratings I've ever seen for this run. Like 6.1%, which, okay, that seems a bit low. And here's the thing with this Super Sentai. It was the last one of the Showa era for Super Sentai. Yep, it was the last one. Because starting with Turbo Ranger was the first one onto the Hensai era. Yep. Now, did I think that the series is gonna be crowded adding too many people? No, it felt perfectly fine. Another problem I had with this particular run was a lot of the time the Rangers were basically getting beaten a lot. Like, I get the fact you want to basically show them very vulnerable, but not to the point where they're having their butts beaten in like almost every episode, where like all the monsters are basically just easily beating them. And I think they were just extremely lucky. The fact that, well, they never got a chance to, well, show it off. Now, there was a few things I didn't like. There was another thing I liked with the show. We never saw a sequence in this run where we saw the Rangers when they were building their Zords, or a flashback when they got the Morphers. I would have thought that that'd be an interesting little flashback, maybe like a little tribute to the Professor, maybe like a tribute episode to him. But no, there was like nothing to him. It seems like though that the series forgot this Professor even existed. After episode 2, he's referenced once in episode 37 of all things. Yeah, roughly 35 episodes after the character's death, he's finally mentioned. Only reason because Colin mentioned it took him 2 years to build her. Now, did I think the series had any staying power behind episode 49? Don't know. If it did, I would think that they would have basically squeezed out another episode. And here's a shocker for you about Liveman. It is the first Super Sentai that I've seen where no movie. And you're thinking, really? No movie? Yeah, it was the first one I've seen where there was like zero movie for this one, which I'm like, that is quite strange. Yes. Also, this is one of those things where like every one of the main villains, well, supporting villains got a chance to have their own particular monsters per se. Like Bias himself, he had 3. His first one to put show episode 34. Like, who was the first one to have a monster per se? It was Oberon in episode 3. Yeah, it almost seems as though also, like, a lot of the stuff introduced this series, like, if you get a chance to watch this particular one, you also had to watch, you pretty much had to start with death for the first 2 episodes, because that seems like it was meant to be an hour-long pilot episode, given the fact that the episode itself picks up exactly where the last episode left off. And you have to where like, oh, the Rangers got Zords. When the heck did they get those? Like, there's a bunch of questions you got to ask when this thing starts. Like, okay, you assume they probably built those during a 2-year time scale because they mentioned it's been 2 years since that opening bit. Now, as to the whole thing of Kemp being the one killing those friends in pilot episode, me personally didn't have a problem with it because the guy was always an arrogant jerk this whole run. Yeah, he was by far the most over-the-top villain in this entire run. Like, I would say that Medisia, she probably had, like, a lot of, like, really, like, over-the-top things. Yes. Also, I think that introducing, like, other, like, aside from the main 3, per se. What the heck is... Oh, it's this. Yes. Aside from the main 3, I think that introducing the other supporting, other villains was not a really good idea. Look, for example, Asha, for example. I mean, the guy was on the team for over 30 episodes, and he only had 4 monsters. Yeah. Goose and Bucci, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They had 7 monsters. 7. Which, that's quite interesting. Basically, Gosh was the first one to use a monster. That was episode 2. And then, like, 15 was next time he actually did anything with the monsters. After that, nothing. If you think who had the last villain, it was Bias. His first monster was not introduced until episode 34, because usually the premises I've seen for this particular thing, it's like, oh, let's have these monsters being created by either the main villain or some other character, and they're using this one monster Well, I'm glad the fact we broke from the formal to having various other characters have their own monsters work for them, for like a single episode for it to destroy. I thought it was a really neat concept. I just thought as though that one thing the Volt basically had a problem with was there was too many villains. Yeah, there were way too many villains in this one. Like, if you just limit it to just Bias in the original 3, it was fine. But then, nope, you gotta keep having more people. And the first person you add is frickin' Gyros and Bucci. Now, Dr. Opler, I'm not really sure why he had to leave the show. But my guess is probably the reason why that they probably removed him is because they probably had 4 supporting human villains and they probably wanted to eliminate one. So that's probably the reason why he left. But honestly, I'm not sure what the reason could be for his removal. Yeah, as far as I can tell, like I said, there was no reason for it at all. Like, was it because the actor wanted to leave the show? It's possible. But honestly, I don't really know. It could be anything of the reason for why he left. Maybe he got tired of it. It's possible. The actor was in his 20s. He was 23 when this thing started. Maybe he had enough. Maybe he got tired of the schedule. I'm not really sure. But I'd be curious though why he left the show for. And the other characters, well, they probably felt as though it's probably time for them to leave anyways. But it's interesting though Kemp stayed until like, oh, one thing I forgot to mention in my last video, that some of those geniuses and those brains were women. Yes. What I heard, I think it was about 2 or 3 female voices, which that was interesting. Also, what the heck happened to their bodies? Did Bias put them in stasis after you remove their brains? Don't know. I don't know what happened to these geniuses. That would be interesting to find out exactly what happened to them. As for Bias himself, where the heck came from? He is one villain in the Super Sentai franchise who has never been explored. Now, when they had the Liveman tribute episode in Gokaiger, they brought back the actor who played Bias. Yes. Who, by the way, the actor is still very much alive. He was only in his 40s. He was only 44 when he did this role. It's like, really? He looked a bit older. But he was, in fact, at the time, as of currently, the guy is in his 60s right now. He's like, oh, he's pushing 70. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that kind of basically got me interested in Liveman also was the tribute episode because they had one of the Liveman show up in there. And it's been a while since I watched it. I'll probably watch it a bit later, but it was a really interesting episode. It'll be something to explore later on for a potential like re-review for that one. Yep. But not much to say about Liveman. Great show. Bit weak of an ending. But yeah, good season. Now, next video is going to be reviewing the first 3 episodes of a brand new Super Sentai we're watching. It's going to be Masked Man. Yep, next video. Bye.